Christ is risen, He is truly risen. Alleluia. Sometimes we struggle to find words to express the power of the resurrection and His glory. But I found a good term many years ago when I was working in the refugee camps in Sierra Leone, on the border with Guinea and Sierra Leone. And I was preaching in English, but it was being translated simultaneously into Creole. And Creole is a language that they speak in Sierra Leone. It sounds a bit like English, but it's not exactly English. So I began by saying, first we have the joyful mysteries. And the translation was, the Father He say, first there be the gladdy business. So I was very interested and I said, okay, then we have the sorrowful mysteries. Then the Father He say, there be the crying business. And so finally my curiosity was spiked because I was wondering what would be the glorious mystery. So I said, then we have the glorious mysteries. And he said, then the Father He say, there be the big, big gladdy business. Speaking of big, big gladdy business, today's gospel, taken from John chapter 20, the first part of that chapter, invites us to follow the footsteps of the first act of faith after the resurrection with Mary of Magdalene. She comes to the tomb early in the morning. Her steps are heavy, but slowly she begins to run as the good news begins to sink in. Initially she just sees an empty tomb. It's still dark, but the light of the resurrection has begun to shine. We imagine that meeting Jesus risen from the dead would be quite a spectacular event. But actually, it was quite trying for all those that met Him, because if they didn't see Him in faith, they couldn't see Him. And it must have been embarrassing because some of them had spent 3 years with Jesus, eating with Him, sharing life with Him. And He was right there, and they couldn't recognize Him. Mary is standing next to Him. We will see in chapter 20, because of her sadness, she's blinded to Jesus' presence. After the resurrection, Jesus, risen from the dead, comes to meet each of His disciples in a very personal way. It seems that each of them has a barrier that's stopping them from being fully in communion and open in faith to the presence of Jesus, risen from the dead. And Jesus comes to touch that barrier and take it away. Like Mary was sadness, Peter guilt, Thomas was doubt, the disciples of Emmaus it was anger and disillusionment, and the community as a whole, fear was a big factor in stopping them from being aware of the presence of Jesus risen from the dead in their midst. The account of the resurrection begins in territory that we are familiar with darkness, emptiness, shattered projects, confusion, guilt, shame. Very often when we hear the words, Jesus has risen from the dead, we feel that we're not risen. We are still in our tombs, searching for God where He is not. When Mary comes to the tomb early in the morning, it's still dark, the text tells us. And it's telling because it means that she's still in darkness herself. Jesus is risen, but not for her yet. She's still in the darkness. Pope Benedict XVI has a beautiful line in commentating on this text when he says, "The remedy for the emptiness of life is the empty tomb." Here in chapter 20 in St. John, the very beginning of the resurrection, Peter, Mary, and John are faced with an empty tomb. Mary sees the empty tomb and thinks the body is stolen. Peter runs and sees the empty tomb and goes, "No," he doesn't understand. John sees the empty tomb and he believes. Even the philosophers understood this. At the core of our human being is a gaping hole, an emptiness, a yearning, and a restlessness. God made us that way, with a hole in our hearts that only He can fill. We are hardwired for Him. O God, you are my God, for you I long. My soul longs for you like a dry land longs for water. In God alone is our soul at rest. So we are invited to let the emptiness of our heart meet the emptiness of His tomb, and let the light of His resurrection shine in the darkest parts of our hearts, to lift us up. He is risen. He is truly risen from the dead.